Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to your uncensored home for all things Warcraft. With your hosts, Berzerker and Navox, this is Unshackled Fury. With swords unsheathed and rageahol imbibed, the Unshackled Fury podcast is back once again to ride upon the blood of our conquered foes and dominate the Warcraft landscape. That's pretty good. Welcome to episode 46 of this fine program. I am your host, Berzerker, and with me, as always, is the McCartney to my Lennon. He is Navox. Welcome back again,
That was
sir.
pretty good. that was pretty good. I cut you off there at the beginning. That was pretty good, yeah. I liked it.
How have you been, sir, since the last time we got together and clashed heads on this channel?
Really, really good. You know, we're raiding in Dazara lore, having a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun new raid. We talked about it a little bit on the last show, and we're still banging our heads against the wall on some of these bosses. So we're not at that method level of, raiding. It's we're the peasants, we're the common folk now that are raiding. So
All the flotsam and jetsam that are left to actually do the thing.
Exactly.
Very good, very good. Well, yes, our raid team as well. We are banging our head away on Jaina, as it seems like just about everybody is in every difficulty. That is an amazing fight.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
And not just from a technical standpoint in the sense that it's varied and you're doing different things and, there's all that going on. There are new visuals that are going on with the fight that you've never seen before, which are just phenomenal. There's this ice strike thing that Jaina does where there's this big swirl in front of her and this huge, spike thing comes out in front of her. I got caught one time just staring at it and it blew my ass off the boat, so...
Yeah, that and her protective sphere she does. I liked the sphere that she
sweet.
Puts around herself. So I was like, yeah, they did a good job on that.
They have done a damn good job putting that together. So this week we've got a few different kinds of items. A little contentious on some items, a little interesting on some others, and we're following up on some swag, which. Influencer something, I don't know. God, and but we are also going to finally be debuting one of the little bits and pieces of things that I've been hinting at and teasing at for a long time, and I'm sure the buildup is way bigger than what this is going to end up being. But nonetheless, we are unleashing upon the world today the first of what I hope are many little bits that should be familiar to anyone of a certain age.
Yeah.
Shall we say?
Yeah.
Not a totally original idea, but if you were around advertising like 15 years ago, you might recognize.
Has it been 15? It's been 15 years.
It's like been 10 or 15 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. They were still good. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're getting there. We're gonna dive into something a little icky
real icky
to start off the show, but I think that it's important that we have this discussion on the show because as men that are part of this community, I think that there are just some aspects of responsibility that have to be discussed. And as people who have a show and have listeners, and I'm not saying that we have any influence on anyone, but what I am saying is that we have a voice that goes out there. So I think we have some responsibility to talk about this. So why don't we go ahead and jump into our rage portion of the show and dive right into the ick. Let's rage. So within the past week, we have had a story break and then brew and then kind of die down for the most part at the moment, but I'm sure it's going to fire back up here in the next few days. And it revolves around an individual that was a fairly well-known entity not that long ago in the Warcraft community, who used to go by the name of Elvine, real name Thomas Chung, who was arrested right around the time of the Super Bowl. This is back on January 31st, I believe, was the date of the arrest. And the arrest centered around an operation that was being run by Georgia law enforcement, and it had to do with, to quote their language, to seduce, solicit, lure, or entice a child.
Ugh.
And I will put the caveat out there at the beginning that he has been charged with crimes related to those actions. Our understanding is that this individual was arrested in the parking lot of a grocery store or nearby, and was expecting what he thought was a 14-year-old child to show up for some sort of liaison. There is no conviction yet, so we'll throw the caveat out there that these are charges and we weren't there and yada, 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 but this shit is awful. And more closely related to us here in Warcraft is that once this story broke, regardless of whatever the circumstances of that may be, we had a large number of women from within our community coming out and speaking out about personal interactions that they had had with this individual that were assault, that were maybe not quite to that level, but certainly unwarranted, unwelcome, pick your adjective. Very toxic
masculinity. Yeah.
And somebody who was using their position as a, if you want to call it an influencer, or somebody who was in the in crowd with our people here in Warcraft and gaming and beyond to try to coerce people into certain positions. And it's none of it's good. It's all awful. It's a taint on our community. And I wanted to bring it up this week, and not a lot of shows are. I've noticed that there are certain people who are staying away from it, and that's their prerogative. I don't think that that's the responsible thing for us to be doing here. So I'm bringing it up here because, one, I think people need to be in the know in terms of what happens in and around our community, good or bad. But number two, like I said earlier, is that I think that it's important for us to have a discussion about how we, as you and I and other members of our listening base who are men, how we can be aware of these issues, how we can help to change the pervasive nature of this type of behavior in our culture, not just in gaming, but sort of in general. But some things that we can do to help or to not make things worse to a certain extent. But as we jump into that, when you first heard about this, Navox, what did you think about this? Did you know this guy from anywhere? Did you have any interaction with him at all? Or was this all just like, what the fuck happened?
I've never had an interaction with this person other than just seeing him pop up from time to time in Twitter, and then also on some of the shows and streams that I would watch. There were a couple shows that he was on. He was on Final Boss Video. Brutal Static had him on his show a couple times, and stream, and they would do some talk and discussions and things like that. I recognized him from the purple hair, and he would pop up. A lot of his stuff would be shown during the BlizzCon time. And
this was somebody who was also a Twitch partner.
This was somebody who was a Twitch partner and worked for High Res Studios. He worked for did work for High Res Studios, and
was also an ambassador to like St. Jude's.
Oh,
I think.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know the specifics there, but yeah. So the most that I've never interacted with them. Never had any, other than just seeing things that people would tweet, and then all of the stuff broke out on Twitter, and I went down the rabbit hole to see, what people were saying and things like that. So that's been the extent of my experience with this person. But I know a lot of other people that have had face-to-face experiences with him and said, one, they weren't surprised, and two, he kind of gave him the heebie-jeebies, and
Yeah, and that's I think the part that leads us into the larger part of the discussion is that once this came out, you did hear those, not just the stories of people who had specific interaction with him that was unwarranted, unwelcome, what have you, but a number of people, including myself, who had met him.
Oh, really?
And said, this doesn't surprise me. And it's that part that is the part of the discussion that I want to make sure that we touch on to some degree, in the sense that I know that we don't get political on this show for a very specific set of reasons.
Right. Yeah.
So the topic of toxic masculinity and predatory behavior and a lot of those kinds of things, it is a difficult landscape to navigate, but we're going to do our best here to do what we can. When you're looking at issues like this, a lot of the, I guess, consternation comes out of, well, there's the people that immediately react and say, well, that's not me, or I'm not that way, or people that will defend this kind of behavior and say, oh, people are overreacting, or this didn't, or just outright denial, this didn't really happen, or...
I don't understand that.
There's plenty of people out there right now that are defending this individual and saying, oh, well, let the facts play out. Yeah, I mean, that is one way to put it. However, what I will tell you is that law enforcement typically does not waste months and resources to just arrest somebody just for the hell of it under these circumstances. But regardless of all of that, you also have a wealth of people coming forward and saying, this happened to me. So
yep,
go ahead and die on that hill, man. But I'm not coming with you, because our community does not need this kind of behavior. We don't need these kinds of people. And it's important for us, especially us as men, when these things come forward, is not to judge, not to come back with, this is bullshit, or you're overreacting, or any of those kinds of things. The best thing that we can do is listen. Just shut the fuck up and listen. Because the biggest problem that we have as men generally is that we try to solve everybody's problems. It's something that's inherent in our gender, is when somebody tells us a problem, we immediately want to try to find a solution to it. Like, here's how you fix that. Here's how you do this thing. That's not what's needed in these situations. When somebody comes forward and says, I've been the victim of assault, it's not, here's how you fix that, or here's what you did wrong, or you shouldn't have gone there, or you shouldn't have dressed that way, or you shouldn't have, ba.
Right.
You have to stop. You have to listen. You have to take that information in, and you have to offer help however is best for that person. More than that, it's about us keeping an eye out and making sure. It's kind of like the old school, if you see something, say something.
Exactly.
If you see somebody who is uncomfortable in a situation, or there's something going on, for God's sakes, intervene. Do something. For a specific example of this individual, myself, and a situation like this, here's one that I'll give you. BlizzCon a few years ago, I had a chance to go to one of the parties there, and I saw Elvine, Thomas, whatever the fuck his name is. So I'm at one of these parties, and I said, hey, there's somebody from the WoW community. I'll go say hi, whatever. Could not have been a bigger dick to me. Just, couldn't be bothered by somebody who wasn't a named person, it seemed to me at the time. I mean, who knows? Maybe he had other things on his mind, wanted to do something awful. But when those things kind of happen, or when those kinds of things happen, I trust my gut when I get a vibe on somebody and they go, something ain't right here. And not just because he blew me off, because, listen, people blow me off, but there's different ways of doing it, and there was just something about it that rubbed me wrong. I saw him later in a hotel lobby talking to a woman at a table, and it was just the two of them confined in this bar. And I look back on that moment as I saw him, and I thought, man, how is that guy running game? Because first of all, he just seemed like a complete ass, and number two, his breath was awful. And I'm like, man, I don't know how he's running any game right now in this bar, but I guess it is. I sincerely wish, as most people do in these situations, I wish that I had known then what I know now, because I would have tried to make a more conscientious effort to take a look at that situation and go, hey, does she seem okay? Is there something going on here that seems ill-advised? And it's weird, and you don't want to have to feel like you're some kind of a I don't know, spy or something, and you're going around, is everything okay here, sir? Is everything okay here, ma'am? And doing some kind of weird police stop tactic.
Right, yeah.
But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at is that it's important for us to keep an eye open and to be aware. That's the thing. Awareness, being aware of these issues, that these things do happen, that this shit is real, and that by either ignoring it or not opening ourselves up to availability as an ally, as a friend, as an ear, that we help to contain this in a way that is not healthy, not appropriate, and ultimately doesn't end this cycle of behavior. So that was why I wanted to bring it up on the show, because I think that there's a responsibility for all of us to try to do better. And this is something that's very near and dear to our community, has affected numerous people. You've seen the stories that are out there. You know there are more that haven't come to light. But I think that it's important that we keep in the front of our minds that we have to look out for our community. And this is one area in which we can do a hell of a lot better. So, anything on that you think I'm missing, or anything else you want to add there, sir?
No, I mean, you hit all the points there, and it's just us, it's just basically just almost a friendly reminder that everybody out there, who follows somebody on social media, Twitch and otherwise, that we're only going to see the sides of the performers that they want us to see, so,
mm-hmm.
and you also touched, you touched briefly on the, cause I did see the thing on social media where people are like, I'm going to reserve judgment on this. No, the shit's been going on for 7 months. Like, when you have the FBI involved and things like that, they're not just like, all right, guys, what are we doing tonight? Okay, well, all right, we got 4 hours. This is what we're going to do. And, we got everybody. No, I trust that the FBI knows what they're doing when it comes to this type of shit. It's just, it's always a shock when it comes down to this type of thing, I guess. And it's, yeah. But yeah, I think you nailed it with the trust your gut, because I think a lot of people had the same reaction with that too, with their gut instinct on this person. So yeah,
it's not straightforward. It is a difficult topic, and for a variety of reasons. But again, want to make sure that we have that discussion here, and to you folks out there in the community, have those discussions with yourself or with your own teams or with whoever you got out there, because it is important. And anything that we can do to protect the people in our community, the better off we'll be. So, all right. Well, I think we've talked enough about that icky topic. So why don't we go ahead and jump into something a little bit lighter and brighter in our news? Capping off what has been a pretty exciting, week or so of Mythic raiding, Method finally pulled out the winning poll on February 5th and downed Jaina to win the Mythic race for the Battle of Dazar'alor.
Woohoo!
347 pulls.
Oh my God.
Of insanity.
Can you imagine? I raid for 2 hours a night, right? 3 hours. I raid for 3 hours a night. And if we're just banging our heads against a boss for 3 hours, I'm going insane and just like thinking about, piecing the fuck out and pulling oh, look, nav disconnected. What happened? Oh, my internet broke, guys. See ya, going to bed.
Yeah, 50 wipes. I'm like, I'm out.
I know.
I'm done. I'm quitting. Uninstalling. Rage quit.
But yeah, congratulations to Method on that. So
yeah, they finally pulled it off after what seemed like it was going to be over before it even started when Limit came in. So now remember that Limit was the guild that did the transfer to Alliance.
Yes.
And they got the 400 gear, and there was all the hue and cry about that. And for a while, it seemed like they were going to pull it off because they got the world first on a majority of those bosses and were racing through.
They had an 18-hour head start.
They did have the head start,
So,
which that was, I mean, that's part of it. But they were rolling. And so was Method, and so were other teams to some extent.
Right.
But it only took a couple of days, and they were already at the end, and people were thinking, oh, shit, this is going to be done. This is going to be the fastest one since God knows when. But then Jaina, in all her mighty glory, rose up and just squashed fools for days.
Jaina was like, hold my beer.
Yeah, so there are a variety of articles out there about what Method did, how they pulled it off, all that jazz. They did a race change to trolls so they could get the benefit of lesser effect on, mobility?
Yeah.
So they're always looking for an edge on these kinds of things. It's the same as Limit did with getting their gear. They're always looking for something. We always talk about how Horde guilds are typically world first because they've got better racials, which makes you wonder, well, how does that ever get balanced? But Method ultimately prevailed. They pulled it out, and in fact, they didn't do it just once. They actually had their B team do it a second time. So they had the first two Mythic Jaina kills before Limit finally got theirs.
Yeah.
Which tells you just how committed these people are and how practiced they are. Apparently they are millions of gold in debt from buying out auction houses and all kinds of crazy stuff. And with that, we also had our contest winner, Graves, one of our longtime listeners, was the closest guess. The rest of our entries were much longer. So I think people had a guess that this race was going to go longer than it actually did. But Graves, congratulations. Hope you enjoy that 30 days of time on the Unshackled Fury dollar. If the check bounces, sorry. Don't have to tell me about that. We did also get out of this some numbers from Wowhead in terms of the live streaming and other things. So why don't you tell the folks about what we heard in terms of whether viewership was up, down, or what have you.
So back in Old Deer, we're just talking about methods. Method had a stream of 263,000 concurrent viewers. Now, that was Old Deer. This time around, with the newer raid, the peak was 191,372 concurrent views on Twitch. I was one of those 191,372 people. So I was constantly flipping back and forth between the Method stream and Sko's stream to see what was going on. But it was really, I think the number, I don't know how the numbers were, total, because, you had all these people from Method streaming at one time. I don't know if that's a total of all of them, but, the main two people I watched was Skull and Method. So, it was a little bit down. So I don't, I wouldn't necessarily say that WoW is losing its, interest. It was also occurring during work hours. So like I had it up on one screen while I was doing my work on another screen. So I'd get up in the morning, I'd sit down at work, I'd turn on the stream and watch Bay and Preach, and then they would keep showing all the raids going on and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, that's from 263,000 from Aldir down to 191,372 in Dazara Lore. Sure, it shows a little bit of a drop, but I don't necessarily know if that's just popularity or just, like I said, time of day or something like that. But
it would be interesting to get some more of the metrics broken out in terms of, because the total number of hours was higher, but the peak viewership was lower. So
yeah,
It'd be interesting to see how that broke out. But as somebody who watched the sort of the mainstream that they had going on with the casters and all of that, what did you think about the production and the presentation that was put on for this race?
I really enjoyed it this time around. I don't usually find myself watching the world first, and I'll tell you, when it was first announced that they were doing this again, I was one of the people who was like, I don't care. Who cares? I
vaguely recall this.
And I was just like, I don't care about this at all. And then I started watching it, and I there were times I did find myself bored. Like they'd pull, and then they'd have like a 3-hour meeting after the fact, and I'm like, this is so boring. How can anybody watch this? But I still kept watching it. But if anything out of this whole race, all it did was make me, it gave me the drive to want to go and raid the new raid with my raid team. And it was similar to how when I was younger I would watch Bloodsport and immediately want to be like, I'm gonna go be Jean-Claude Van Damme and get into martial arts. That's the equivalent of what it was. It was like I watched them do the raid and I'm like, I can't wait to get home and get in there and smash these bosses with my friends. And so for it to inspire people, I guess, in the WoW community to get home and raid, and I don't know, maybe get some people who haven't logged in a long time to go, hey, look, this looks like a lot of fun. Maybe I'll resub and play some, and it would do its job. And WoW as a whole, it's nice to actually have. We can bitch and complain that, oh God, these guys raid all the time. Oh wow, limited and streaming. It's nice that these people are still playing WoW, and that there's still a gigantic community around it. All the WoW killers came out, and we're still doing world first races and stuff like that. Yeah, well,
killed them.
Yep, exactly.
Well, one of the things I thought was interesting in the Wowhead article, because there's a pretty good article on Wowhead that breaks all these numbers down, and they have some videos and things. Is there some comments in that article that talk about how WoW subscriptions or WoW players, or the number of WoW players, is way down than it was at the start of the expansion, but I haven't seen any subscription numbers posted anywhere. Is there some way to verify or corroborate that that you know of?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I mean, it would be nice.
No offense to Wowhead, but I know that they're not exactly held to the journalistic standards of the New York Times.
Right, but I imagine they do have some sort of insider connection with Warcraft, and I don't necessarily know if Blizzard would actually release that actual statistics of subscriptions and things like that. And it also, I don't know about everybody else in the community, but my active subscription is I do year-long subscriptions. Like I do, I was doing. Oh, I'm sorry, I do. I think it's 6 months. I'm doing a 6-month sub. I do 6 months. I sub at 6 months, but so I don't know how many, people are going month by month, 6 months. I don't even know if they do a 12. I think they do a 12-month subscription still, things like that. But
and generally, it is true is that numbers drop off after the start of an expansion. It's right. The ebb and flow, it's the rise and fall. It's pretty typical. I've never seen the numbers for this expansion, so I was curious to see that. But overall, so thinking about the Mythic race as a whole, where everybody jumped out, at least the major players jumped out, and just blew right through the first, every boss except for Jaina. Then when they got to Jaina, boom, hard stop. That fight just completely smoked them. Do you think that there should be a more, because this is one of the complaints of Method, do you think that there should be a more gradual difficulty ramp? Or do you think it's okay that they just hammered the shit out of the first, 7 or 8 bosses, and they get to the end and it's just, whoa, this is now all of a sudden ramped up in difficulty by 100-fold?
Well, I mean, they brute forced the fight, and they did it on the basis that one of the mechanics in the fight was, I believe it was that something was interruptible, and they just ignored the mechanic altogether, and they figured if we don't deal with the elemental, we could just burn Jaina, and so it was not having to deal with the mechanic, and then they just brute forced the fight. So the ramp up, for them, they're already high level gear. They're already, burning mythic every week. They down it every week. So they're always constantly at that item level of character that allots them the character power and the practice of these bosses time and time again. I kind of feel like maybe Blizzard needs to do a little bit more internal testing on some of the stuff. I know that they have their internal testers, but maybe give the raid out to Method and Limited and the other big level guilds on a PTR and let them bang away at it and go, hey, look, we found this bug, or hey, look, we were able to do this. Was this intended? Things like that. Because I will say this, I'm just doing a heroic. We like I said, we are a ahead of the curve raid team, and then we dabble in mythic. So we usually get maybe like 4 or 5 bosses in mythic before the next raid tier comes out. Mm-hmm. So I kind of feel like the raid is tuned perfectly for people like us that do this raid, but maybe for some of the mythic raiders that are hardcore mythic raiders, maybe it is a little bit too easy for them. But I guess I'm happy with the way the raid is. But again, I would have liked to have seen Jaina last at least one lockout before going down. And but congrats to both of those teams for doing it within a week or two, one lockout at least. And
for sure,
I don't know how to solve it, like, because you can't just do a whole big ramp up of item level, because that's going to throw everything off. Like if you force people to do normal and then make the bosses harder and heroic, it's just going to feel like I think you're going to feel that oh god, the slog of the, oh god, we got to do this again, we got to clear normal again, because we gotta, no, you kind of want to be able to go in there and burn down some of the fights. Like we tried to burn down the first boss in Mythic because we're just like, we heard it's easy, let's go do it, and we got the boss within we got the boss within 16%, and we kept just falling over. Mm-hmm. And there's a phase in the fight where everybody just takes a crap ton of damage. The tank takes a crap ton of damage. Everybody dies. And then, so we didn't make that DPS check to burn it down. So we're going to go back through, clear it on, like tonight, we'll do it on normal. We'll clear through normal. And then come Tuesday, we'll do another reset and get some more gear. And then we'll try another Mythic. We did a couple pulls on Mythic just to get the first boss down because, best in slot items. I like that kind of gradual gearing. Like, okay, so we'll go as far as we can on normal. People get some upgrades if they're dealing with 370 item level. Then we'll go through on heroic as far as we can, so we're still getting a little bit of there. And then we dabble a little bit in mythic. We'll try to get that first boss down, and then we get the gear out of there to be able to go back to heroic and then continue on and things like that. So for that, I think that works out for the majority of raid teams.
That seems like too much effort to have to go back and forth between difficulties. Like I don't know if that's what's intended.
I like it because it's kind of like, okay, so we got a little bit here, now it helps us out with this one. We got a little bit here, it helps us out with this one. And I hope that we were able to we're going to try to get to Jaina and down her hopefully tonight. We only have one night to do normal. So if we don't get her tonight, then we don't get her tonight, and I won't get a chance to roll on that best in slot trinket that I need off Jaina, because best in slot for warriors is first boss and last boss.
That's usually the case.
So but yeah, I mean, how about you? How do you feel about this fight? The ramp up between different levels of normal, heroic, and mythic, and things like that.
I think that it's fair at the end of the day for Warcraft, for Blizzard, to do whatever they want. So I'll just throw that out as a blank statement. If they want to make the lesser bosses somehow not as difficult, which that's such a subjective thing to a certain extent to gauge, it's their prerogative. If they want to surprise the mythic guilds by having a super hard end boss to try to really challenge them, then they're free to do so, and I don't have any problem with that. I think for myself as a raider, when I'm looking at, because we're on normal Jaina right now, for me, the difficulty ramp up has been perfect, where we banged our heads on a couple, but we made our way through, and now we've gotten to, where are we? We're like, within 30% of Jaina, and that's it. I mean, we're pretty close, and for me, I think that's great. Heroic, yeah, it'll get harder. There's an extra mechanic, whatever it is, you start to ramp up. Where as a raider, I would have a problem with what they've described, and where I will give this to Method, is that it's demoralizing at a point when you've been steamrolling, and then you get somewhere, and then you just suck. Or you think that you do, because the fight's just that hard. And that's when you start playing that mind game of, well, are we just that bad? Are we missing something? Are we fucking up? Or is it just really that hard? So, people that have been on my raid team, which, point of personal privilege here, the raid team that I've been on, the Salad Senate raid team in the Convert to Raid Guild, is celebrating its 6th anniversary this week.
Oh, awesome.
And we have been through all kinds of highs and lows as individuals, as a team, the whole deal. But for those of us that have been around since the beginning or near the beginning, like a lot of us have, Garrosh was that fight for us where when we were in Siege of Orgrimmar, that fucking fight just, it bled us players. It demoralized the team. Like, I thought we were going to break up at some point. Like, the fact that we finally made it through after 200 some pulls was just, it was one of the greatest nerd scream moments that we've ever had. But I will never forget how hard that was because it was such a long fight.
Yeah, it was.
Because the mechanics were difficult. I mean, we had to get people, herding cats. So I will never forget how difficult that was and how that affected the team. It was brutal. So I get Method's point, and it is a hard balance to strike. But at the end of the day, I kind of side with the sense of I want the Mythic race to be dramatic. I want it to be kind of hard. So if they want to ramp up the difficulty on that last boss, be my guest. Have a secret phase that no one's ever seen. There was the secret boss Raid N back in Bissa Pandaria on the raid on the first raid there. So I like all that stuff, and I hope that they continue to do that. And however they do it is fine in the end, in my opinion. So to celebrate now the end of the world first Mythic race, we are now going to debut this long-awaited bit. And it is something that is reminiscent of an ad campaign that ran many years ago. So yes, this is not entirely new and not entirely my idea. But here we go. What I hope is the first of many Real Men of Warcraft. Unshackled Fury presents Real Men of Warcraft. Real Men of Warcraft. Today, we salute you, Mr. World First Mythic Raider. Mr. World First Mythic Raider. Come rain, sleet, or need for personal hygiene, nothing will stop you from being number one. Adult diaper for the win. Like any pro athlete, you prepare for the battle ahead with sustenance, hydration, and a wheelbarrow full of crushed Adderall. I'm awake! No longer satisfied with just having fun, you'll grind AP until, like Gollum in the One Ring, you will hate and love this game. So stand and be recognized, trailblazer of the tiers, for you've proven that against all odds, there's nothing an all-male gaming team can't accomplish. Mr. World First Mythic Raider. Well, that was interesting.
Yeah. That was good. It was really good. I liked it.
Thank you. We'll see if we can keep those coming. You never know. Never know what'll come around.
I would love to hear what our listeners have. Like, if you could come up with something that you like, a major complaint that you have, or something, right into the show and let us know, and maybe we can come up with a little jingle for that one as well. So
yeah, I've tentatively got a list that we could probably do about one a month, and I'm open to any and all ideas. So if other people have ideas they want to throw out, dude, we'll make a million of these things if we want to, or if anybody cares, or if it sucks, we'll stop doing it. But yeah, throw us your ideas. More than happy to do it. So congratulations to Method. You are the winners. Next up, something that is not looking so great. Coming down on the downswing here is there are reports coming that as of this coming Tuesday, which will be the 12th of February, Activision Blizzard is looking at laying off several hundred people. Ugh. Now, to put this in perspective, this is not to mitigate this, but to put this in perspective, Activision Blizzard as a company has about 10,000 employees. There was an article in Bloomberg that covers a lot of this in some detail, but there's essentially 9,800 people at the end of 2017 that they had listed as the number of employees of the company. They're talking about several hundred layoffs, which, having been part of a large layoff back during the recession, about 10 years ago, I can vouch for the fact that it sucks and it's awful and it's scary, and I feel for anyone that's about to have to go through this if this is true, because it is a life-changing experience. And I don't know of any other way to put it. But it looks like they're pointing at things like Overwatch and Hearthstone are not overperforming. They potentially are flat in terms of their player base, or they are declining, which is not good. Destiny 2 did not perform as they had hoped. Now Bungie is splitting off and doing their own thing now from Activision, so that could be part of what's happening here. As I mentioned in the last episode, we will be doing a more robust financial aspect, sort of a portion, looking at stock prices and some other things. And considering that this is about to hit, I'll have a lot more information, I think, on the next episode about this. But we've been seeing just this string of bad press for Activision Blizzard over the recent months, and it all kind of started with BlizzCon and the whole Diablo Immortal shit that went down. And since then, we've had stories coming out about canceled games and unhappy employees and people leaving, and now there's layoffs and Activision's taking over and all. I mean, it's just, none of it's good. I don't think that Activision Blizzard is really doing much to try to mitigate publicly the image problem that is happening here, because no matter what I might believe about the financial strength of the company or their health, publicly they don't look too hot right now.
No. Mm-mm.
So when looking at this overall, what do you think the story really is here? Is this an Activision parent company problem? Is this a Blizzard problem? Is this both of them? Where do you think the truth lies in all this?
I actually feel like it's coming from the top down, and I'm not I'm not usually a big proponent of going after one company over the other, but Blizzard is a subsidiary of Activision at this point in time, and the CEO back in 2009, the CEO of Activision basically told a group of investors that the goal he had was to take the fun out of making video games, and then he tried to Yeah, so I mean, it sounds real bad, but then he tried to backstep on that comment at a later time. He's like, when you're getting into crunch time and it becomes really difficult to meet those milestones or get things polished the way you would like, that isn't a lot of fun. Well,
no shit, Sherlock.
So, he also said he should have bought Blizzard sooner. He had thought, and he also said he thought the subscription version of World of Warcraft was the silliest thing he's ever heard of. So, you take that philosophy and then put it in a bowl of, gameplay and fun first of Blizzard, you're going to have a bad day. It's like it just doesn't sound like the two companies are, good for one another. And you never know what is being said to the investors in a boardroom of like, hey, this new Destiny thing is, it was supposed to do so great. Who would have guessed that the players weren't going to buy it because the game sucks? Or, who would have thought that people weren't going to jump on board with the Overwatch and things like that? And, I don't think a lot of information is being conveyed well enough to the investors, and you don't necessarily know what kind of investors we're dealing with. If people understand the industry the way, all they're interested in is making profit at the end of the day. And while this is ultimately very, very sad, and it's going to be very, very sad for a lot of people that are going to be losing their jobs, time will tell what we see out of this relationship with Activision Blizzard. Or it's the relationship we see with Activision Blizzard is very similar to Vivendi is the same way. It's I have a feeling that Blizzard will probably change hands again at some point. It's just I guess it's the way this is gonna go. It would be nice if Blizzard could just stand on its own and do its thing on its own, but there's always going to be somebody, it seems like, that's going to be on high there. So And
Yeah,
we're just riding the Activision wave at the moment, people. That's what we're doing. So they want to push games out. They want to keep pushing games out, and they want to move into the mobile market. And that's where the people are. And you can't really deny that. Heck, we go out to dinner and we see kids plugged in on their phones, the whole time at dinner.
Mm-hmm.
You go out, you see people outside, out in public, walking around Target or something. The kids are plugged into their phones, constantly playing games on their phones. So, I mean, that's where things are going. But,
Yeah, and that is a difficult topic, I think, for a lot of Blizzard players, because PC gaming, that's our bag. That's what we do.
Right.
And there has been expansion into consoles, and there's more work that's going on, obviously, with mobile, with more to come. And it is a bit of a culture shift in the sense that we were used to it's ready when it's ready. It comes out on PC. We do our thing. We wait for years. This is the cycle. This is how it goes. And now there seems to be, real or imagined, more of an influence to say we need more faster. Because as a preview of the segment we'll do eventually on the financial part of this, one of the things that investors have commented on routinely is that Blizzard doesn't put out many games. And they don't. They don't put out a lot of new titles. Overwatch was the first brand new IP that they'd done in like 15 years.
Right.
It's just not what they do. With that in mind, what I've been wondering, and I guess we will or will not see this, but with the influence being put on let's develop more mobile titles or let's expand into the mobile genre, because it is huge. Whether people like it or not, it is big. And it's big, particularly overseas, apparently. Will there be a time when there is more coming out, because they have been ramping up their hiring, creating more teams, and so you will see that shift within Blizzard where instead of big tentpole titles coming out every couple of years, or expansions, or whatever we're doing, now you're going to be seeing like the Hearthstone team was originally, where it was, here's a small strike team creating this project, boom, out we go. Here's another one, small strike team, mobile game, boom, out we go. Maybe that's what we start seeing. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, because at the end of the day, I look at it as, if it's not for me, then I won't play it. I'll play what I want to play. And I don't necessarily want to get hung up on, well, they're doing something different. Yeah, they're doing something different because the landscape is different. The environment is different. It's not 10 years ago. It's not even 5 years ago. It's now. And this is how it is. What doesn't look good is when your stock is going down, people are getting laid off, and you're paying executives $15 million. That's not good. You're bringing people on board and giving them a huge chunk of cash, while you have other high-profile executives that are leaving under dubious circumstances. For a company like Blizzard that has prided itself so much on its image and its connection with its community, the Activision Blizzard public perception right now is very much the antithesis of that, and that is concerning. And with this news coming out that they're looking at more layoffs, obviously anything and everything could be on the chopping block. And I wish anyone that may be listening to this the best. If you ever need to reach out, feel free to reach out to me. As somebody who's gone through this, I was laid off. I was out of work for a year back in 2009. From March of 2009 to March of 10, I was out of work for an entire year, and it fucking sucked. How my wife and I got through that was through a variety of minor miracles. It is not easy. I hope that whatever they're doing it for the best of reasons, and that they have, some kind of severance packages ready to go, some assistance that they can provide, file for your unemployment, do whatever you got to do. The times they are a-changing, as they say, and this could be another harbinger of that, so we'll see, and we'll be back next time to talk about it and what the fallout is and where the company stands, probably as of the end of February. So we will keep an eye on that. Now, looking at something a little happier coming out of that, there was an article this week that was on Kotaku talking about nostalgia. And anybody that's listening to this show knows that I love nostalgia. I'm a big nostalgia whore. I'll dump my brain into anything from the past because it's always better than the present. And the Super Mario Brothers, the original game, is by no means better than anything that's out today. But God damn it, I will stand by that game being phenomenal because it was out when I was 6, and it felt good to be 6 because you didn't have to care about shit. You just went to school and ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and it was awesome. Anyway, they had this great article, which I thought was really interesting in the sense that they talked about this term, the pain of transition, where they were, and this is something that I think any of us have experienced with our parents, having to deal with computers or other technology. It's going from one technology to another, how looking back fills you with these positive memories and the sort of the positive benefits of that. So I know you read this as well. Give me your vibe on nostalgia, man, because I've talked about this plenty on this show. But what's your nostalgia hit? What's your go-to? What do you do when you want to take that little mental trip back in a time?
Well, I actually there's a couple fronts that I go to, and I know this is for the nostalgia feel for me is I'm a child of the 80s. Born in 76, growing up through the 80s. I remember the Nintendo when it came out. I remember playing games on the Apple IIe, but I wasn't too nostalgic about it. Like if you were like, hey, you want to go play stuff on the Apple IIe? No, I'm good.
Oregon Trail, baby.
Oregon Trail, right. So, for nostalgia for me, there's looking back, the games that make me feel good. It's actually, like what you just said, like Super Mario. Like if I really want to feel nostalgic, we'll pop in the NES Classic because I don't have my original Nintendo anymore. In fact, I actually sold my Nintendo, my Super Nintendo, my Nintendo 64. I sold those back in 2008 because I was playing PC games. I was playing Xbox, Xbox 360, so on and so forth. And I got rid of those because I wasn't playing them and they weren't exactly what they were. When I go back to play them again, you've said it before, with nostalgia, for me, it feels better to think about it and remember how it was rather than actually go back and experience. We did this a couple nights ago, actually a week or two ago, where we set the Sega Genesis up and we're going to play some Sonic. We're just like,
play some Altered Beast.
I have Altered Beast. Yeah. But those games, they had their moment in time and they're not as fun now when I play them. I sit there and I play them, and the whole time I'm playing them, I'm like, this is neat. This gives me a little bit of memory. It takes me down memory lane, and then let's go play some WoW or something like that. It's like, this is cool. I can do this. I will say this though, there are some games though that are more recent games, recent titles that have come out where I've also began to have nostalgia for. For example, the Halo series. When Halo came out on Xbox, it was amazing. Then Halo 2 came out with multiplayer, and to me, being able to play multiplayer on a console blew my mind. Like when Xbox Live came out, it just blew my mind. I was like, this is the coolest shit ever. I signed up for the Xbox Live beta. They sent me all this stuff to plug in to get my Xbox Online, and it was I had a lot of fun doing that. And I will always have those fond memories of playing Halo 2 with my friends and things like that. And then also, there was during that same time, I was also raiding an EverQuest. So, I have all that. It's all the fond memories you have that if you were to go and be like, you know what, we're going to go play it right now. You're going to go back and play it and you're going to be highly disappointed. So to me, if it's not a movie that you're used to playing with video games, maybe some people are like that. Maybe some people can go back and play. I know my wife I could put her in front of the computer with Donkey Kong Country and she will play for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. She loves Donkey Kong Country. She will play that game. I think that's her nostalgia hit. And there are people like that can just sit and play those things. I'm not one of those people. I enjoy living in the thought of the fun times that I had. Like, I was one of the first people to get up in the morning and go stand in line 3 hours before Toys R Us opened to buy the Nintendo 64. I was one of 3 people in line to go buy that console. I skipped out on classes that day, and that's the fun nostalgia memory I had of that. But it's it goes hand in hand with the whole times are changing, games change. You go on, you move forward, and you find something new you like, and then eventually. Hopefully, 20 years from now, we'll look back on this in fun and be like, oh, remember World of Warcraft? But we'll still be playing that in 20 years.
Probably.
Anyway, so, but you know what it's like, you to me, I think you've said it best. It's always better it's better in your head than it actually is if you actually go back and experience it right now. I mean, it's, to me at least, so.
And that's one of the things that this article talks about is... Just what you were talking about. And the name of the article, by the way, is Why Nostalgia for Video Games is Uniquely Powerful. And one of the points that it raises is that when you think about many things in your life, it's purely through memory. That's all that you have to rely on is your memory. With video games, it's something that for the most part, you could go back and play right now. It's not a time and a place necessarily in your mind that you can go back to, but the physical game is something you can pull up anytime. I can pull up the original Ninja Turtle game on my Nintendo right now.
Yeah.
I can go fire it up because I still have my original Nintendo and my 50 games and my Super Nintendo. I still have all my crap because I'm a hoarder practically. and I keep all this stuff. But even when I go and I play those things, to your point, it's not the same. It just is not the same because who you were then, what the situation was then, it's just not the same. What's interesting now, and this is where, and we've talked about this, is where we're going to see this happen in real time is with the Warcraft Classic. When this comes back, when this hits in the summertime, you're going to see where everybody really falls. Because I know for me, I didn't play vanilla. I came in BC, but from, a decade plus ago when I first started playing, there is still a very nostalgic feeling about sitting in Elwyn Forest and killing spiders and walking through Goldshire and doing the whole thing. Like, there is a very strong feeling that I enjoy about going through there. It's like, yes, this is the best. I love this. I still like going through there, and the music is really what gets me more than anything. It just, boom, I hear that music, and I'm like, yes, I am transported to another time and place. But it's different now. It's a lot different now. The world is different. I'm different. The whole thing is different, but the game is still the same. And I wonder how that's going to play out now that people are actually going to get that nostalgia bump from Warcraft that they've been asking for such a long time. When people played the sort of the beta during the BlizzCon period that was open, people loved it. There were folks that were just absolutely, we're doing duels in Goldshire. It's the fucking best. Woo! More power to you. But what is the longevity of that? How long will that actually be viable? And that's what I'm curious to see. And that's kind of where I'm wrapping this up at is when the rubber meets the road with nostalgia, I think in the end, it's always better what's ever in your mind. And when you actually have to go back and do the thing, it sucks.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better to protect your memory that way. And so, I will be very curious to see, at least in our little neck of the woods, how that plays out. But the article was great. It touches on a lot of great topics. One of those, just as a side, they talk about Nintendo, and more specifically, they talk about the development of Super Mario Brothers and the influences that Miyamoto had growing up and kind of how all of those things happened ultimately in the game with his characters. So, great article. Highly suggest you read it and just take a little trip for yourself. Now, last but not least, this is going to be kind of a weird one. We are following up on an item from several months ago where Navox, you and I have been labeled influencers by somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody up on high. And if you recall, we were given a bunch of sweet gear, Alliance-themed gear from Blizzard. And as part of that as well, we were to be given at a later date a CPU from Intel. Yep. Well, that time has arrived. And lo and behold, we have been sent Intel processors, and they didn't just send us any old processor. They sent us a fucking beast processor. So what we have in our possession now is an i9 7980 Extreme Edition CPU. This is not just your run-of-the-mill, I need to fire up and play Hello Kitty Island. This is like an end-all, be-all, 18-core CPU that can pretty much run a Pentagon supercomputer.
Yeah, this thing is monstrous.
This thing is absolutely no joke. And in all honesty, I think this far exceeds anything you and I were prepared to receive as part of this deal. Now, mind you, we are not being paid for any of this. We're not official spokesmen. We're not anything. But you know what? They sent us the gear, so we're going to talk about it. So, the official sponsor of this show is still Vicodin and Childhood Trauma. So don't worry, we're not, we're not getting paid for any of this. But they did send us these CPUs, and from what I can tell, now you and I still have to figure out how to jam one of these things into a rig and do some other things. So a lot of what we're talking about, this is just sort of a spec sheet type deal. But these are essentially built not just for gaming. Like, these can handle any sort of gaming thing, but my understanding is that what this is really intended for is to go beyond that and hit up other projects. So if you can touch on that, Mr. Tech Guru, why don't you tell the people about what we got our hands on?
Yeah, so this thing, first of all, it is overkill. Now, for gaming and things like that, you may be better off going with a different chip just straight up for gaming. But if you're going to do stuff for Adobe and content creation and video production and compression and things like that, or even AI development, this is the CPU you want to get for that type of thing. I was a little perplexed when they said that this is what we were getting, because then I immediately went out there and I'm like, I've got to go out and build the computer around this CPU. And then I was just like, wow, because this is a new thing for me even. So yeah, like we said, this is really, really good for the content creators, because this thing comes with, it's 18 cores, 36 threads, and 24 megs of cache on this thing. So this thing's, it may not, like I said, it may not be good for straight up, I want to play World of Warcraft and gaming. Will it do that? Absolutely. It'll do all of that. But say you want to make a YouTube video, or say you want to do, a YouTube video or music creation, or hell, even podcast creation, things like that. Like how you'd have a regular chip and it may take you maybe, let's say, on average 25 minutes to export a movie or something like that, or a YouTube video that you need to export and then upload to YouTube. This thing will probably do it in a little less than half that time. So it's made for that. So I really, I was really, really surprised when this is what we received when the initial thing said an i7. They said nope, here's what it is. I was very much taken back, and I just want to say, thanks to Intel, thanks to Blizzard, and I'll be looking forward to building a beast around this thing. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again to Blizzard and the Intel folks that hooked us up with this, because obviously we're just a couple of chuckleheads out here, and
yeah.
Getting this sort of thing is a surprise, and we do want to thank them for their generosity. And I've always said on this show that we're just the everyday folks out here playing. So damn it, if we're gonna get stuff like this, we're gonna make sure that we tell people about it, because it's just, I know that there may be some other folks out there that are not as forthcoming about having been involved in this program, but that's just not how we roll. And every step that we take, we want to bring the people that listen to this show along the journey with us. So whatever we get, wherever we go, we'll be as open and honest with everybody about that. So yeah, the i9 Extreme Edition 7980 retailing for about $2,000. So you're definitely going to drop some bucks on that. But thank you again to all the folks, and we'll see what we can come up with in the future. with this fine piece of equipment. All right, well, I think that'll do it for this episode. Other than this fine program, where can the good people find you on the internet, Navox?
You can find me over on Twitch and Twitter. I am at NAV_OX.
As for me, you can always find me on Twitter at Berzerker Rage. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise at unshackledfuryshow@gmail.com. And you can find the show on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high, and we'll see you next time. Farewell.